people, women, etc., all part of a steering committee that we have that oversees the implementation of the low carbon development strategy. But you do have many people who still don't understand the threat. And the threat is that to define the problem, right now the world produces from its industries, etc., about 34 billion tons of carbon per annum. It's estimated that if we want to keep the world's temperature at below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, and why is that figure so critical? Because they said beyond that, it's easy to get into tipping point, irreversible damages. So we want to keep the global temperature rise to that level. But to do that, we have to cut the 34 billion tons of carbon that we produce today to about 15 billion tons by 2050 to have a 50% chance of doing this. If we want to increase the chances to 2/3, we have to cut it from 34 billion tons that the world emits today to 11 billion tons. On a per capita basis today, every one of us, it's about 5 tons we emit. We have to get down to 1.6 tons per capita by 2050. So that is the task before the world. How do we get there? Are we on the road to getting there? And the answer is no. At Copenhagen, there was great hope that the developed world, from which the bulk of the carbon is emitted, China too, but the developed world, most of the accumulated carbon in the atmosphere comes from the developed world. China now is growing rapidly, so its carbon emission has grown. But historically, it's the developed world that has done this. We were hoping that the steps would be taken at Copenhagen to put us on a pathway towards this 2 degrees rise, at least to keep it below that level. Based on what happened at Copenhagen, and China, most people think China didn't do anything, but China agreed in Copenhagen to cut its carbon intensity by 40 to 45%, so that it will reduce from every unit of gross domestic product that it produces, the energy that it uses for producing that one unit by 40 to 45%. And that was promised at Copenhagen. They're on the pathway to doing it. But in spite of those promises, the World Bank just did a study that the pledges that were made in Copenhagen would put us on a 4 degrees rise to global temperature. At 4 degrees rise to global temperature, the things that Clinton spoke about, sea level rises, parts of the world will be inundated. Guyana will have major consequences because sea level rise will probably flood most of our coasts. This rise in sea level would affect most of our coasts. Forests, large swathes of forests will die naturally because it would be too hot. New vectors, rainfall patterns will change. That is where we are today in the global environment. So in spite of all the wonderful talk you hear and the great speeches that are made, when it comes to making a sustainable pathway towards achieving 2 degrees rise, those pledges are yet to be made. We are hopeful that recently, because of a lot of work that has been done today, if you look at Lord Storm's work in the early, maybe about 10 years ago, on the economics of climate change, Because first of all, you have to prove the science. And until today, you do have many climate skeptics who believe climate change is a myth. And unfortunately, many of them remain in leading policy-making circles in the United States of America and the developed world. So even if President Obama, with all the goodwill that he has, pursues some of the things that he's been speaking about, he's not going to get it past the Senate, for example. So there is a limit to what he could do there. So the science has to be proven, and I think we've gone past that now because most of the world's scientists that they believe that climate change is a reality, and even skeptics like Bloomberg and others are now major advocates for climate change. What was not proven was the economics of climate change. And so Lord Stern and some others did some work and pointed out that if we don't fix the problem today, it will cost about 1% of global GDP. Then in the future, the costs are going to rise exponentially, and that it will be inaffordable in many ways to fix the problems, apart from getting to tipping point and climate catastrophe across the world, that it would get up to 5-6 percentage point of GDP. So that work remained in many circles for a long time, and it helped to create a momentum that led up to Copenhagen, but then we lost momentum again. So recently, another study has just come out. It was headed by former president of Mexico. I met him at the Clinton Global Initiative a couple of weeks ago. We had a long talk about this. He led a team, and they've come up with a new climate economy. And they're saying that climate now doesn't have to be seen, fixing the climate problem, just from the perspective of cost, because the opportunities can create more wealth than the cost that the society would have to bear to fix those problems. And I think because there is this shift in global thinking, particularly among the developed world, there is a new energy to try to reach an agreement. So President Obama and the others are not just driven by, I think, a change in heart. I think it's the economics of what is happening and some other developments in the US that has made these changes. So the United States of America itself has now put is controlling emission standards for vehicles. They're now putting limits on coal-fired power plant, and only because the gas has become cheaper and the way of extracting oil has become cheaper from the fracking of shale, that has allowed your emissions to be lowered. And because of that, they are now putting some restrictions. There's a progressive movement going in the United States of America to address this issue. We in the developing world, we have to understand that if this takes hold, already it would be difficult to find financing for traditional technology to generate power. The US has said they're not going to finance coal-fired power plants abroad that don't control carbon emission. So it's going to be harder to get global financing for traditional technology to generate electricity. So that is going to be a major problem. They're contemplating reducing tariff for the trade in cleaner energy technology. So again, there is a new opportunity here. In China, on China's behalf, so we've seen a bright light here emerging out of what is happening in the US, and hopefully this would lead into the type of global agreement that we want. China itself, and why am I mentioning these two countries? Because their opportunities would be very different than opportunities in small countries. It's because these two countries themselves put out about half of the world's emission, about half. So China now has identified 4 emerging sectors, 4 of the 6 emerging sectors that it thinks that its wealth in the future will come from as somehow climate related. They're already not number 1 in the production of hydropower, solar energy, wind energy, and a whole range of other technologies. China has cut its carbon intensity in a single year by 5%. It plants 40 million trees a year. So clearly, China now sees this as an opportunity, not only because it can fix air quality problems in Beijing or in parts of China, but because the countries that invest early in these technologies can become the world's leader in the production of technology. And already that sector is valued about $500 billion in China, US dollars. It has the potential to grow to $10 trillion. The new economy, the new spurt of world growth can come from the green sector, as it came in the past from the Industrial Revolution, the dot-com revolution. Fixing the problems of the climate change can spur a new level of growth across the world, which in turn will have an impact on us. So we in Guyana and in the Caribbean cannot be oblivious of what is happening in the rest of the world. If we are, then we will miss out on this huge opportunity. And my fear is that is precisely what is happening in Guyana and in some parts of the world. But let's take Guyana, for example. You know, I'm going to come back to the concept of the LCDS. But the biggest green opportunity in Guyana, everyone knows it, it's the hydropower. The hydropower will allow us to practically decarbonize our entire energy sector. But is it just, should we do it only because it's green, and only because hydropower produces less carbon emissions than fossil fuel? Or are there other compelling reasons for us to do this? My argument is there are several compelling reasons. In the Caribbean now, and in Guyana's case, we use about $500 million a year to import fuel, over $100 million for GPL. In the region, we use about a third of our GDP, gross domestic product, for the importation of fuel. Just imagine huge bill for paying debts and a huge bill for fuel for running our economies. And this is with the Petro-Caribbean help. If Petro-Caribbean falls apart tomorrow, many of the countries of the region, we have not used the money as a debt for supporting our balance of payment or financing the budget. We have used the loans from Petro-Caribbean, we have retired them through the sale of rice. So we don't have much loans to Venezuela because of Petro-Caribbean. We're the only country in the region that has done that. But a lot of those countries will have major problems. But come back to Guyana. If we build this hydro, then what are the long-term savings for the hydro? Now, we have some numbers. We sell power at on average, and I'm going to simplify numbers just to give you the idea. 31 cents per kilowatt hour on average. $150 million of revenue per year for GPL. We can reduce power by 20%. So what is the saving per annum? $30 million. That is to consumers, to businesses, your businesses. The Treasury, every year we, in the capital and on operational side, and this has been declining, but it's still for the past 5 years, it's about $34 million. So we save another $34 million per annum that the taxpayers put into GPL. That is about $1.280 billion over the 20 years, because after 20 years, the hydropower comes back to us for free, and you have another 60 years of the government operating it for free. I'm not even calculating the benefits beyond 20 years. But in just 20 years, we can save a constant dollar, today's dollar, gave about $1.2 billion. That's the consumers and the Treasury, your money. Now, the hydro itself will cost about $850 million. So, assuming that, and this is only by selling about 700 odd gigawatt hours. But if the hydro comes on stream, we will bring Linden onto the grid. Some other users will come on the grid. The growth over the period would allow us, because a mile is bigger than our current generating capacity, would allow us to sell about 1,050 gigawatt hours. So the savings move from $64 million, that's 30 plus 34, to $95 million per annum. If we when we bring Linden and all the others onto the network, that's $1.9 billion. So suddenly the savings go to $1.9 billion. Then if we use a 2.5% inflation per annum, which is reasonable to do, and just simple interest, not compound interest, that's another 30% over 20 years. So that takes it up to $124 million per annum. It's $2.5 billion. If we add replacement costs, that's a saving over 20 years. Replacement capital cost goes up to $3 billion. And then, if we foresee what is happening around the world, that China has now committed to a national carbon market. President Obama is saying, I will use the EPA to regulate carbon emissions in the US, the two biggest economies. The European Union has the emission trading scheme already. China is committed to putting that market in place by 2016. By 2020, it will have about 4 billion tons traded on that market, twice the size of the European market already, to generate trillions of dollars. So a price for carbon is coming, whether you like it or not. So if you stick with traditional technology, if you continue using fossil fuel to generate power or to serve any other purpose in industry, you will be faced with a carbon price in the future, whether in the form of a carbon tax or a cap and trade system that will put a price on the market. If you say the price is about $25 on average over the 20 years per annum, per ton, because it will grow, the market will grow significantly. It's now, the estimated will be about $17 by 2020 in China per ton. That adds to GPL's cost another $460 million. You're talking about close to $3.5 billion of savings, US dollars of savings in 20 years from building the hydro now. That is what the country saves. And yet we have controversy. because of this silly politics. Silly politics. This doesn't have, when you're a consumer, it doesn't differentiate whether you're a APNU supporter or PPP supporter, or when you have a business in this country. We've never judged people based on who they supported. That's their private business. But clearly, when something is so transparently and vividly beneficial to the country, then you expect everyone to embrace it. And you know what? We've heard from some opposition commentators how the debt will go from 700 million, four of them, and they had four different figures, from 700 million to 2.1 billion. Well, the debt is zero because the government is buying power. To buy power 10 cents per kilowatt hour costs us now 19 cents per kilowatt hour to generate power. Zero debt. All we are doing was $700 million of performance guarantee. That is what we're giving. It's not, it wouldn't be added to the debt stock nor the debt servicing. It's a performance guarantee. But guess how I saw a column from the opposition saying how they will build the hydro. Don't go this route. They will issue local bonds. Now just imagine, if you had to issue local bonds worth $850 million US in this economy, what it will do to the markets here. It will dry up liquidity immediately. Interest rates will go back to where they were when we assumed office at 35%. Now they're on average 11%. That's where interest rates are going to go back. Because once there's a scarcity of funds, the interest rates will have to go up. That is what the proposal is versus having it financed from abroad. But today, the politics of our country would not allow us to move forward because you hear all sorts of things. Corruption. Well, we didn't choose China Rail. It was Blackstone. That because this is a privately developed project, they went out to tender. They selected the contractors. They had an open public bid. They selected the contractor. We heard about corruption in building the roads when we awarded it to FIP Multilab. Well, it was the road we awarded the contract for about $15 million to do the entire road. Half of the road was done for about $78 million. Then the incessant criticism led the banks to not to extend the performance bond, so we had to pull the contract because you have to cover government money by a performance bond in case the contractor failed. Today we're going to have to do the road. The cost of completing the road is $30 million now. So we're doing the other half for over $20 million. And the same people who were critical of it, they've gone quiet. They've gone quiet. So my argument is that green things don't come easily. Now globally, the green growth model is one that will still have a lot of contention. So I'm not making the case for a green growth model for every country. When we were negotiating for the Rio meeting, a significant part of the developing world felt that the developed world wanted to push the green growth model concept, largely because they use polluting tools to industrialize, to get their gross domestic product up, to address poverty, etc. And they wanted to remove the same tools on the part of the developing world. So a country like India with just about 2 tons per capita, or China 5 tons per capita, the United States has 20 tons per capita. What is it fair? And the commitments made in the Kyoto Protocol to assist the developing countries, many of the developed world has backtracked on those commitments. to help. They want everyone to act in the same way. So many developing countries are yet to buy into this concept, that not the concept but a model, a growth model called a green growth model. My argument, I am now, over the next few weeks more, because for the past 2 years I've been president of the Assembly of the Green Growth Institute based in Korea. It is about 20 odd countries that came together, developed and developing countries, that was set out to assist countries that wanted to go on this path through sharing of knowledge on models, etc. And we've always emphasized that the pathway to green growth has to be determined in each country separately. And even if countries do not pursue a model of development that is based on green growth, they can pursue opportunities for green growth that are there, as the hydropower is so vividly, such a huge opportunity for us. So while I'm not making a case for blanket adoption by the developing world of a green growth model, I'm arguing that in many cases, those could be inimical. Some of the elements could be inimical to our interests. And we must never let it become a conditionality on the part of the developing world. I've fought too many years to remove conditionalities on the developing world than to now subscribe to and support a new set of conditionalities surrounding green economy. But I am arguing that we have to have the foresight to seize opportunities when they come along. And we in Guyana, we can do so. People say today we don't have clarity where we're taking the country. We have a clear pathway to the future. We said that the old sectors had run their tenure for a long time, and whilst we need to support them, because they still play significant roles in our economy, rice, sugar, bauxite, etc., that we had to define the new sectors, the new growth poles for development. And we sought to define about 6 or 7 of these growth poles. And about 4 of those surrounding the green issues. So we said 1, the hydropower, 2, the ICT sector. And for those who think we don't have a plan for, I've seen, and I've stayed quiet, and it's hard to do so. I've seen the comments publicly about we don't have a vision for ICT, because we said 1, liberalization of the sector, 2, to bring in more bandwidth into the country, because when Accenture did a study here, our cost of bandwidth was too high, so we said we were bringing a fiber optic cable from Brazil, and now Digicel has applied for to bring in another cable, and I think the government has given them permission. That's 1, cheaper bandwidth. Secondly, with Huawei to build a network that will give free Wi-Fi to poor people at $250K. So if they want more expensive one, they can buy it from the operators, but free public Wi-Fi to some people, and e-government. And then the 1 laptop per family to ensure that poor families can connect with that network. 3 elements: cheaper bandwidth, more bandwidth in the country, a public Wi-Fi network plus e-government, and then the means through which people can interface with that network. And if we can do that, we then computerize practically the entire country. In the hinterland, the hubs in the Amerindian areas, which we are building now, 100 hubs, so that they too can become connected. That allows us to develop a sector that is low carbon in nature, that is a sector of the future, the trading in services. So although we didn't say, oh, this is just a green opportunity, but we are looking at its impact on the future and on carbon emissions. And if there is going to be a price for carbon emissions in the future, then the activities that are going to be most sustainable are activities that have low carbon emissions, and the ICT sector is an important one. We then said the environment and tourism sector could become another one. Hotels, the Marriott, and again we went to a public tender for that too, because they claim it's corrupt. We went to a public tender for that. We had 2 bids, we chose the low of the 2 bids. Trinidad, with all the hotels, the government can build a hotel here, with so many hotels. In Barbados, the government built a hotel, the Hilton. Here in Guyana, we've had one hotel that from the 60s, and then this one here that we had to help too with the financing. If you recall, we had to help with the financing. If it was so wonderful and everyone wanted to build hotels, until now, they can buy the 66% equity in the Marriott for $8 million. But the same people who think that the market is flourishing so well, that you don't need this sort of investment, they wouldn't do it. So, hotels, the airport. If you, $130 million, the aircrafts now are lining up on the taxiway because we don't even have parking stands at the airport. And we argue that we don't need a new airport. Imagine this airport is being built 50 years ahead. But what is so important is we got the resources at 2% over 25 years with a 5-year grace period. If we had to borrow commercially, we'd end up over that period paying nearly $200 million more, because the difference between commercial borrowing and the soft borrowing would allow that. If you borrowed at 10% versus 2%, the differential is 8% percentage point. That is the saving on that airport. So that was another sector, but it seems as though, and it was a low carbon sector again. I can go on about the other growth poles, etc., because the ones that are going to create the wealth for the future, that were part of a comprehensive vision for the future, creating new wealth for the next generation, because it's very important. There has to be intergenerational equity in our entire planning process. We have to look to the future and ensure that the lives of the next generation, that they live their lives better than the current one. And that is what we are planning for. So, I think I'm talking too long already, and I have like lots of things more, but maybe I should, another day I can make a speech on economics and politics. Tonight, let me come back to the climate issue a bit. So I urge you to read the LCDS. There are lots of things there about the new opportunities of the future, the aquaculture, the rural hinterland electrification, so many other initiatives that were all low carbon in nature. And so those are the areas that some of you may want to look at investing in, and not tonight making a case that we adopt everything because low carbon, because we are yet a developing country and we have not agreed on a cap in our emissions, because we can't cap our emissions at 3 tons per capita, and then have the US have theirs at 20 tons. It would be unfair. So we cannot agree to a cap on our emissions. So if we find oil and gas, yes, definitely we should go for it. And that is why our agreement with Norway and this partnership has been a great partnership. And we got criticized for concluding it before Copenhagen. A lot of people criticized us. And after Copenhagen, no other significant partnership was done until recently. Norway signed up an agreement with Indonesia and Peru and now Colombia, and that we have helped in the Colombia one, because I'm part of the roving ambassador for the Three Forest Basins, which is based in Congo. So we've been helping with those, but no money has been disbursed on those partnerships as yet. So had we not signed it before Copenhagen, the Norwegian resources would have been zero. And people thought we were crazy. I remember members of the opposition saying, it's a pipe dream. Who would pay you for avoiding deforestation? Well, we have over 100 million in our bank account. That would help us to fund a lot of our initiatives. And I remember one person saying to the Norwegians, don't disperse the money. One prominent opposition leader, rather than asking that the money be dispersed to help the business community and others here. So that partnership continues. We didn't do it where we have to stop logging or stop mining. We made it clear that we have to continue logging in this country. It's a source of wealth creation. We have to mine, but there are limits, and if we improve the ways that we log and the ways that we mine, then we can still receive the funding under the Norwegian agreement, meet those targets, and create more wealth, take out more of our minerals, and extract more of our trees from the forest. If we change methods, etc., and there's a constant search for improving ways, recovery of gold, avoiding the use of mercury, etc. That search has to be important for us. Not because of Norway, not because of anyone else, but because we value our own country to make sure that these resources last now and that the next generation has some access to them too. So I believe that this country has an enormous future. We must be aware of what's happening around the world. We need to administer carefully. Well, I shouldn't say that word here, but because I'm known for controversial things. But we should urge CARICOM to be a bit more aggressive in their climate mainstreaming policy, because they're part of our region too, and whatever happens in those countries will affect us. The regional disposable income, if it grows, will also affect our opportunities for exports. So we need to push them along a bit. We need to pursue things relentlessly. And people think it's arrogant, but if I'm convinced, in the years I've been there, if I'm convinced something is good for the country, regardless of what the opposition says, I will pursue it. I will pursue it. And so when they oppose the stadium that everybody goes to, I pursued it, and the Burmese Bridge. We need to be a little bit relentless, because we can't allow the politics to cause inaction. We need to make sure that the future of this country, that the people who sit here, who every day go to their offices, who turn on their engines, who work in those places, that they have a greater opportunity to get jobs. Because when they go into Parliament and have these long sessions there, it doesn't create wealth for the country and for people. And so we need to sometimes just ignore these issues and pursue them. So, let me end here before it gets too controversial. Thank you very much.